I'm sensing a dynamic here between two people where there has been some kind of distance. Not necessarily physical distance, though that might be part of it. More of an emotional pulling back. A quiet retreat. And one side of this, your person, has been operating under the assumption that they had moved on, or that they were managing, or at the very least that they had enough emotional discipline to keep things contained. They had told themselves a story. Maybe you had a falling out. Maybe things just faded without a proper ending. Maybe life pulled you in separate directions and no one officially said
goodbye.
Whatever the circumstances, this person constructed a kind of inner fortress around their feelings about you. And for a while, maybe a long while, it was working. Until they saw you online. Something about that moment, that completely ordinary, almost accidental digital encounter, completely shattered whatever composure they had been holding on to. This is interesting, because I'm not sensing that this was some grand, dramatic meltdown. It wasn't. It was quieter than that, which almost makes it more powerful. It was a freeze. A full-body stillness where the mind goes blank for just a second before it floods. Have you ever had that experience where your heart recognizes something before your brain does? That's what I'm feeling happened here. They saw you, and something in them just knew. And now they cannot stop thinking about you. Let me sit with this energy for a moment, because there's something I want to describe carefully. This person has been stubborn. That word keeps coming up, not stubborn in a petty way, but stubborn in the way that people become when they've been hurt, or when they felt vulnerable and didn't like how that felt. There's a kind of self-protection happening here that has been so consistent, so practiced, that it started to feel like a personality trait. Like, I am someone who doesn't need this. I am someone who is fine. And they repeated that to themselves so many times that they almost believed it. Almost. But the fortress was never as solid as it looked from the outside. That's what I'm seeing. The walls were high, yes. The energy was closed off, definitely. But underneath all of that structure, underneath all of that carefully maintained distance, the feelings were still there. Preserved, really, almost perfectly. Waiting. And your person, even if they would never admit this out loud right now, has been carrying you with them this whole time without fully realizing it. For those of you watching as a collective, take what resonates and leave what doesn't. This may describe your specific situation differently depending on where you are in your journey. The awakening that's coming through here is something I want to spend time on, because it feels significant. Not just in the context of this connection, but in terms of who your person is becoming. There's a sense that something has been cracking open in them for a while now, long before they saw you online. A gradual softening. A slow, reluctant surrender of some belief they were holding, maybe a belief about love, or about what they deserve, or about what's possible for them emotionally. And seeing you was almost like the final piece of that shift. Like the universe used you as a mirror to show them something they'd been avoiding looking at directly. This almost feels like someone who had convinced themselves that their life was better with the walls up. That being closed off was actually wisdom, not fear. And I want to be gentle with this, because that's a very human response to pain. When something hurts us, we adapt. We build structures around our soft places. We tell ourselves it's strength. But there comes a point where the fortress that was built to protect you becomes the thing trapping you, and I think your person has been reaching that point for some time now. They just didn't have a catalyst. And then, you. I'm hearing something like, I didn't think it would still feel this way. That energy is so strong right now. This feeling of being caught completely off guard by the depth of their own emotion. Like they had expected to feel indifferent, or at most a mild curiosity, and instead what moved through them was this wave of something unresolved, something alive, something that refused to be categorized as the past. Does this feel familiar to some of you? This experience of thinking you've processed something, thinking you've done the work, thinking you've arrived at a place of peace about someone, and then discovering quite suddenly that you were simply in a season of waiting rather than a season of healing? That's what I'm picking up on from your person's side. And here's where it gets really interesting. Because I'm not sensing guilt from them. I'm not sensing that they're beating themselves up for feeling this way. What I am sensing is something closer to a reckoning. A quiet, private moment of sitting with themselves and having to admit something true. There's almost a relief hidden inside the discomfort. Like, oh. There you are. So it was real. That matters. The fact that their first instinct wasn't to shut it down or dismiss it immediately the way they might have done before, that matters. The stubbornness is softening. That fortress that has defined their emotional landscape for however long this separation has lasted is beginning, genuinely beginning, to fall. Let me shift the energy here for a moment, because there's something else I want to address that's underneath all of this. I'm sensing that your person has been going through their own internal transformation recently, and you may not be fully aware of how much they've changed. Sometimes people go quiet not because they've stopped caring, but because they're in the middle of becoming someone different. They're shedding something. And the version of them that retreated, the one who built those walls, the one who went stubborn and cold, that's not the only version of them. It's not even the truest version of them. And I think some part of them knows this. Seeing you online seems to have accelerated something. Like a timeline shift. Like all of this slow internal work they've been doing suddenly reached a critical moment and snapped into focus. Your presence, even just your image, even just your name on a screen, acted as a kind of awakening. A reminder of who they were before they decided it was safer to feel less. And I'm sensing that the person they're becoming, the one that's emerging on the other side of all this inner work, is someone who doesn't want to keep choosing safety over truth. This is a turning point. I feel that very clearly. Not just a moment of emotion, not just a fleeting nostalgic feeling, this is the kind of moment that changes the direction of someone's inner world. The energy here feels like a shift from "I'll manage without this" to "I'm no longer sure I want to." Now, I don't want to get ahead of the energy. I don't want to tell you that your phone is about to ring or that some grand gesture is coming tomorrow, because that's not what I'm here to do. What I am here to do is reflect what's genuinely present in this field, and what's genuinely present is someone who is cracking open. Slowly. Intentionally. And perhaps for the first time in a long time, willingly. There's something about the walls coming down that I want to describe carefully, because I don't want you to imagine it as a collapse, as something dramatic and sudden. It's not that. It's more like a decision that's being made layer by layer. A day where they let themselves think about you without pushing it away. A moment where they look at something that reminds them of you and instead of closing the tab, they sit with it. Small surrenders. Private admissions. The quiet dismantling of something that took a lot of energy to maintain. And here's the thing about walls. They take enormous energy to keep standing. Think about how exhausting it is to stay closed off to someone you genuinely feel something for. Think about the constant editing that happens, the thought that arises and has to be managed, the feeling that surfaces and has to be redirected, the moments that hit differently than they're supposed to. Maintaining that kind of emotional control is work. And I think your person is getting tired. Not in a defeated way. In a ready way. For those of you who have been wondering if any of this is real, if what you sensed between you and this person was actually there, or if you were reading too much into things, you're not imagining this energy. The connection is real. The feelings are real. What you have been carrying is not just in your head. I want to pause here and acknowledge something, because the energy is asking me to. This reading isn't just about your person's feelings. It's also about yours. And I'm sensing that some of you have been waiting for a long time. Some of you have been patient in ways that haven't been easy. Some of you have wondered if you were foolish for still caring, still hoping, still sensing something unfinished in this connection. I'm hearing something like, you knew before they did. Trust that. The awareness you've had about this dynamic, that quiet knowing that something wasn't finished here, that knowing deserves to be honored. But I also want to say this gently, and I mean this with the deepest compassion, the healing and growing that your person is doing, the awakening that's happening in them, that belongs to them. You can't accelerate it. You can't orchestrate it. What you can do is continue becoming who you are, continue moving through your own life with your own sense of purpose, and trust that what's meant to move toward you will find its way. That sounds simple, and I know it isn't. But the energy in this reading genuinely supports the idea that something is shifting on its own. Let me come back to the moment they saw you. Because I don't think I've fully finished with it. There's something I want to describe about the specific quality of that freeze. It wasn't just recognition. It wasn't just, oh, that's them. It was more personal than that. It was the kind of stillness that happens when you come face to face with a feeling you've been running from, and for one unguarded second there's nowhere left to go. The defenses are down because you didn't see it coming. And in that gap, in that tiny undefended moment, something true slipped through. And I think what slipped through was longing. Real, quiet, undeniable longing. Not the kind of longing that's desperate or frantic. The kind that's heavy and honest. The kind that doesn't ask for anything, it just is. And I think your person sat with that feeling, maybe they still are sitting with it, trying to figure out what to do with something that refuses to be rationalized away. Some part of them wants to call it nothing. Nostalgia, maybe. Habit. Pattern. But a deeper part of them knows that's not what it is. And that's the part that's been awake ever since. The stubborn energy has transformed into something here. I want to name this carefully because the transformation is important. This isn't stubbornness that suddenly became weakness. This is stubbornness that quietly became honesty. There's a difference. The walls aren't falling because they ran out of energy to hold them up, though maybe that's part of it. The walls are falling because something inside your person has decided that the truth is worth more than the safety. That's growth. That's real, significant inner movement. Something keeps coming up around the idea of being seen. Not literally, though seeing you online was the trigger, but emotionally. I'm sensing that one of the deepest threads in this connection is about a fear of being truly seen and known by another person. And I think your person has been afraid of that. I think the fortress was built in part as a shield against that particular vulnerability. To let you see them fully, to let themselves be known, felt too risky. And so they retreated. They controlled the narrative by removing themselves from it. Whatever is happening between you and this person, whatever stage of waiting or wondering or healing you're in, I want you to know that the energy you're carrying into this situation is not nothing. You are not nothing. The fact that you're here, looking for clarity, still open enough to consider that something is possible, still willing to tune into this and allow yourself to hope, that's not weakness. That's courage wearing quiet clothes. The fortress is falling. Not all at once, not dramatically, but genuinely. Something in this person has moved. Something that was locked is loosening. And the awakening that's happening in them is real and it's pointing toward you. Not because of something you did or said, but because of what exists between you. Because some things simply don't stop existing just because we try to make them. The turning point has come, or is coming, or is already underway. Trust the timing of that. Trust that what is meant to unfold will unfold in a way that actually serves both of you rather than just creating another moment of almost. There's a sense here that when things do shift, if they do, it won't be careless. It will carry the weight of everything that came before it. And that weight will mean something. And for you, whatever healing you've been doing in the quiet, whatever growing you've done in the space that was created by this distance, that isn't wasted. It was never wasted. You've been becoming something too. And the version of you that exists now, more whole, more grounded, more clear about what you want and what you deserve, that version is worth showing up for. Don't rush this. Don't force it. Don't try to build something back from a place of fear or urgency. Let it breathe. Let whatever is moving in your person continue to move. And in the meantime, keep watering your own life. Keep choosing your peace. Keep showing up as the person who knows their own worth. The energy keeps returning to one image before it closes, and it's simply this: two people on either side of something, and the space between them slowly, quietly getting smaller. Not because either one is chasing, but because the distance itself is becoming unsustainable. Because some hearts know how to find each other even when the minds are still negotiating. If that's you, if this reading landed somewhere deep and real, take a moment. Just breathe it in. You're not alone in this. You're not imagining things. And you are so much closer to something beautiful than the silence might make it feel. Until next time, be gentle with yourself. Trust the process. And keep going.